Thank you, Rolando. Good afternoon, everyone. I really appreciate this opportunity to meet with you because the media is invaluable for our work, and we, in turn, value this engagement with you. So, as was just noted, this morning we presented our first report to the General Assembly, and that alone is unusual. Commissions of inquiry do not get the mandate to deliver in Geneva and here. And the reports we delivered are different. This one flowed from the earlier report. But nevertheless, it gives us great opportunity to engage with states. And I also noted that we recognize the significance of presenting our report to the same body that nearly 75 years ago recommended the establishment of two states, one Jewish and one Arab, side by side. The exchange we had this morning was quite constructive, which will hopefully yield more awareness and support for our work. Unlike other commissions, we have an open-ended mandate consistent with the situation on the ground, which is the conflict and permanent occupation. So as such, given the expansive nature of our mandate, we were focusing on various aspects of the human rights situation. And so this particular report is focused only on the occupation, the perpetual occupation and its legality. We are independent experts mandated to investigate all alleged violations of international humanitarian law and allegations of abuse of international human rights law in the occupied Palestinian territory and in Israel. So that's another new aspect, that we look at Israel and Palestinians inside Israel as well. We are also mandated to investigate all underlying root causes of the recurrent tensions, instability, and protraction of conflict. So no time limit there. Look at the root causes from time immemorial to now. So the report we then delivered underscores the reality of the current situation. And this situation is the result of 55 years of Israel treating its occupation of Palestinian territory as a permanent fixture, and its annexation of parts of the West Bank while seeking to hide behind a fiction of temporariness. So as such, we, the Commission, conclude that the Israeli occupation of Palestinian territory is unlawful under international law due to its permanence and due to the Israeli government's de facto and de jure annexation policies. At our intervention this morning with member states, we recall that any attempt at unilateral annexation of a state's territory by another state is a violation of international law and is null and void. And this principle is laid out in the UN Charter, has been declared here by numerous member states, and also expressed throughout a resolution the week before last relating to Ukraine. And so, therefore, we ask the question, why would this not apply to Palestine? It's clear to us that the policies and actions by Israeli governments may amount to international crimes. These include the war crime of transferring, directly or indirectly, part of one's own civilian population into the occupied territory, and the crime against humanity of deportation and forcible transfer. Through our investigations, we also found that some of Israel's policies and actions in the West Bank are only cosmetically intended to address their so-called security concerns, and that security is often used as a pretext by Israel to justify territorial expansion. We have also concluded that Palestinians throughout the West Bank are subjected to a coercive environment. This environment is a result of homes being demolished, property destroyed, the excessive use of force by security forces, mass incarceration, settler violence, restrictions of movement through checkpoints and roads, and limitations on access to livelihoods, necessities, services, and humanitarian assistance, to which I also want to add the different system of justice they have. Palestinians are subject to military justice. Israelis have the protection of the civilian courts. We also looked at Israeli government policies, which have had a serious, multifaceted impact on various aspects of Palestinian life, including access to basic services such as clean and affordable water. Such deprivation has resulted in psychological trauma, which must be urgently addressed. We focused on children and women, the desperate plight of children who for decades have experienced constant military presence and harassment, displacement, and insecurity, many feeling little or no hope for the future. It is our sincere hope that the international community gives this the urgent attention it needs. If Israel's continuing occupation is left unaddressed by the international community, we fear that the conflict will continue interminably. So I want to echo here what we stated this morning, and I repeat, we call on the United Nations collectively and its member states individually to consider urgent measures to ensure that Israel starts complying with its international legal obligations and acts to end the occupation. And throughout our report, we recommended that the General Assembly requests an urgent advisory opinion from the International Court of Justice on the legal consequences of Israel's permanent occupation of the occupied Palestinian territory, of policies employed to achieve this, and of its refusal to respect the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination. In other words, for the ICJ to look at the consequences of this permanent occupation. And so I also take this opportunity to reiterate that it is the obligation of third states and the United Nations to ensure respect for international law and call for member states to employ appropriate measures to fulfill these obligations. Now, there have been lots of complaints from certain states about the open-ended mandate and that there's no cutoff date. They seem to accept an occupation that has no end, but they have complaints about this commission. But the open-ended mandate enables us to address in depth some of these issues, and one that occurs to us is the role and responsibilities of third-party states in supporting or helping with finance and morally and illegal occupation. So we sincerely hope these messages are heard and appropriate action is taken in this regard. So thank you very much for giving me a hearing on just a synopsis of what was